I'm in one of these positions of what exactly is a guy named Jack Raslowsky doing introducing Kevin McLaughlin. So let me come clean pretty clearly. My mother's not Irish. I grew up in Hoboken, when nobody wanted to live there. There were two Italian parishes, St. Anne's, mine, and St. Francis. There was Our Lady of Grace, which was the Irish parish. I had great affection for the Irish parish because that's where I went to confession on Saturday. They didn't know me. It was a lot easier that way. But I am delighted to be here. You cannot get to Xavier High School and be president of Xavier High School without quickly coming to have deep affection for the Irish, for Irish America, for the place they have played, the role they have played, both in the life of Xavier, in the life of the church in New York, and really throughout the life of the city. And this night is one great example to that. So thank you. It is a distinct honor for me to be here with you. I look at the work of Irish America magazine with great affection and respect, because it has been a great instrument in celebrating both cultures, in celebrating Ireland, in celebrating America, in keeping folks connected, and in recognizing so many contributions of the Irish and Irish Americans to life here. So it's an honor to be with you. It's an honor to introduce Kevin. Now, I'm fresh off the Xavier Hall of Fame dinner, and we were a little worried about our first two honorees the other night. We put the problem children first. I'd asked the Xavier guys to kind of keep this here. Some of you were at that dinner. And they had 8-minute hard stops. So I got the first two guys the night before, and I explained to them the real difficulty if they go beyond 8 minutes. And 8 minutes came with number 1 and 9 and 10 and 11 and 12 and 13 and 14 and 15 and 16. And I was a little frustrated until we got to number 2. And he hit 17. And I said, I will never be that guy. So this will be a very short introduction of Kevin McLaughlin. But in the program, you have a bit of Kevin, right? The long career in Merrill, Boston College, some studies at Harvard, right? But beyond those things, right, I think and hope what we honor tonight is who the man is and what he represents, much more than what he has done. And I think from an early age, maybe, and I would argue yes, from those days as an altar boy at St. Ignatius on Park Avenue, which led him to Xavier, which led him to Boston College, which led him to Merrill, which led him to Gene as well, the biggest and best part of the story. Kevin has had a sense of something bigger. Right? Now, not only am I not Irish, I'm about to quote an English poet, but he's a Jesuit, so I ask for your indulgence. Gerard Manley Hopkins, when speaking about the world, writes about the world being charged with the grandeur of God. Right? The world itself is connected to something bigger. And that something bigger is about things that are good and right and true. Right? That something bigger in the way we live our lives, right, is about loyalty and connection and integrity. And I think Kevin McLaughlin models these things in spades, right? And models them as well as anyone I've ever known. Right? Loyal to his friends, loyal to his... loyal to the members of his family, loyal to institutions with which he's been associated because they stand for something more. Right? He stayed at Merrill because he believes in Merrill. Right? And it's always been interesting, right? It's always Merrill Lynch, right? There were times where other things have snuck in there, but not for Kevin. There were certain other parts of that name we'd never utter, right? Because I'll leave that for Kevin to get to. But right, for him, Merrill Lynch represented something. Represented something about doing business right, about honoring relationships, about integrity. Right? That's carried through in his service at Boston College as head of the Alumni Association. It's carried through in his service at Xavier as trustee and chair of the Advancement Committee. It's carried through in his individual and personal relationships and in his business relationships. So I could think of no one better to represent the Irish or represent America or represent all that is good about business in New York than Kevin McLaughlin. I'm happy to present Kevin to you.
Distinguished guests, a very warm welcome. Wall Street 50 honorees, congratulations. I am honored for the privilege of representing you this evening. Neil O'Dow and Patricia Hardy. On behalf of the honorees, thank you. And from all of us here tonight, congratulations. Since 1985, almost 40 years, Irish America magazine has given a voice to a range of political, economic, social, and cultural themes important to the Irish in America. Particularly poignant this year, on the 25th anniversary of the Good Friday Agreement, your many articles, important interviews contributed greatly then, and your ongoing coverage since remains so vital today as the unintended consequences of Brexit evolve. Thank you as well for the honor of keynote speaker. I am aware someone needs to be the reason for an Irish wake. Turning to our heritage, it has been said the great Gaels of Ireland are a people God made mad, for all their ways are merry and all their songs are sad. I'll also add the Irish are business people. Commerce has always been part of the Irish heritage. Strangers may point to us as poets, adventurers, and singers of song, which we are. But while our hearts are made for dreaming, our heads are made for business. Evidence of this is seen in the history of the Irish immigrants in America, and look around this room. Tonight, we pause, reflect, and celebrate our proud Irish heritage. In particular, we remember those who came before us and instilled values of faith, family, and country. I am a proud son of the city of New York, raised by first-generation Irish Americans, not far from here, but far from where I'm standing now, in the Yorkville section of the Upper East Side. I would like to relay some of the sights and sounds from back then, and in doing so, I think in your mind's eye, many here will remember being in the same places and hearing the same things. My earliest recollection of being Irish was my first day of kindergarten, when my mother learned in my small class there were 3 other Kevins: Kevin Fitzpatrick, Kevin Fay, Kevin McLaughlin, and was disappointed at the number of Kevins. I remember my father saying to my mother, "June, there's lots of Irish in the neighborhood." That first Irish awakening for me, my American Irish story, begins in 1893 when my maternal grandfather, Patrick Mahoney, arrived here from Cork City at age 8. By 1910, he was a salesman for a food company located on the Upper East Side, whose clients were the residents of the grand mansions and apartments along 5th and Park Avenues, primarily staffed by Irish immigrant women domestics. That's where he met Molly Curtin, also from Cork City, and they married in 1914. Not long ago, when I reconnected in Cork with my cousins, I learned they had an old saying: Molly had to move to America to meet a man from Cork. Molly and Pat had 4 children. My mother was the youngest. They lived at 214 East 83rd Street between 3rd and 2nd Avenues on the 4th floor of a 5-story walk-up in a front-to-back railroad apartment. When my father, Jack McLaughlin, whose father emigrated from Kilray in County Antrim, met and married my mother, Julia Mahoney, he moved into that walk-up, and that's where my sister Kathleen and I were raised. That apartment, by a half a block, was located within the parish of St. Ignatius Loyola, a grand Jesuit church on Park Avenue and 84th Street with the school run by the Sisters of Charity. When I was in grammar school, all the students were required to attend 8 a.m. Sunday Mass in uniform, seated along the right side of the church from the front pews to the back. When it came time for communion, we would proceed up the side aisle with hands clasped in prayer, with a nun stationed at the top of the pews close to the altar rail, pointing and saying, "Keep right." One of those Sundays, when I was in the 5th grade, as I was approaching the altar, I looked left and saw a woman kneeling at the altar rail in the center of the church with space next to her. As I got close to the altar rail, with the nun saying to everyone, "Keep right," I went left. In doing so, out of the corner of my eye, I could see the nun pivot to block me, but I was gone. I knelt next to the woman I had seen and looked up. And looking down, smiling at me, was Jackie Kennedy. And that's when I knew it's okay to break some of the rules. As the late, great Katharine Hepburn said, "If you obey all the rules, you'll miss all the fun." I was educated by my parents and the Jesuits. My father was very keen on Sunday afternoon field trips. You wanted to learn about Nantucket? Well, that's City Island in the Bronx. Medieval Europe, that would be the cloisters. Rome and Michelangelo, Pietà, the Vatican Pavilion at the 1964-65 World's Fair, and even Mona Lisa at the Met, all accomplished on public transportation. We never owned a car. Formally, St. Ignatius led to Xavier High School, and as the first of my family to go to college, Boston College. BC was founded by the Jesuits in downtown Boston in the cramped South End in 1863 to educate Boston Irish immigrants. From humble beginnings with 22 students enrolled, like the story of the Irish itself, Boston College has grown to become a major research university with a stunning campus on 400 acres in beautiful Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts, just outside the city. Like so many in the past, and here tonight, with hard work and sacrifice, education was the springboard. Those traits the Irish took to Wall Street, along with empathy and integrity, and thrived. I'm very proud of my profession. I'm very proud of the success of the Irish on Wall Street, and particularly the honorees tonight. Now, it is time to give Molly, the domestic, my grandmother, who I started the story with, a promotion. My mother would tell my sister and I, her mother was a lady's lady, top of the house, if you will. My grandmother was a strong woman. My mother was strong, and I am very fortunate to have married a strong woman, also of Irish roots, and my best friend, Jean. Irish women, you are the heroes across the generations. You have held families together during difficult times and kept pushing to better times. When Jean and I were planning our wedding at Jean's parish, St. Patrick's in Bedford, New York, we met with the pastor, as many of us have had to do, for the Monsignor to make sure all was in order. In preparation, I called my mother to get the dates I received my sacraments. I knew she would know them, and I was prepared to write them down. My mom said, "No, I'll send them to you." Shortly after, I received a letter from my mother, who was very proud of her handwriting. In it, she had all the dates and the officiants: baptism, first communion, confirmation. And at the end of the letter, she wrote, "We can give our children roots and wings to fly." We here tonight remember our roots, the famine ships, Irish need not apply. And from that, we have soared to the heights. In closing, it's not only about success, it's how we live. recalling words from over 65 years ago by four-term governor of New York, Al Smith, who in 1928 was the first Irish-American Roman Catholic to be nominated for President of the United States by a major party. Governor Smith said then, speaking to a similar group as tonight, "Each year, we gather here in the oldest Irish society in America to review our faith in ourselves, in our heritage, and in this land we have adopted and taken to our hearts. So it is only fitting that we determine to leave here this evening, committed to living up to the best who came before. Let us be gracious in our dealings with others. Let us strive to give support and opportunity to our children, just as our parents did for us. Let our love of God and family shine for all to see. Then, about all of us will see that you cannot find a better friend, a better neighbor, a better ally, a better citizen than those whose heritage lies on the green isle blessed by St. Patrick. Those words ring true today. Thank you for the pleasure of your company."